is hilarious. All right. We should let him in, right? 10
Yeah, I think
burpees
we
for
should
me,
let him
right?
in. I think
All
so.
right. Wait a minute. Now he just like back out again. What the hell? Eric, come
He
on,
sent me a
man.
picture of him in the waiting room.
Oh dear God, this is hilarious.
Saying, hey, Linda's the host. Don't look at
Yeah,
me.
yeah. We were taking a vote. He should be in now.
There he is.
Hey, you want to unmute yourself? What's
Hey
up,
guys,
boss?
hope everybody's Friday's going super well. We're super stoked to be here. Gonna say hi to everybody and we're gonna dive
No,
into
we
the
already did that, Eric.
So we just need to
already
say
did
hi
that.
to you. Welcome, Eric.
We actually all took a vote whether or not to let you into your own Q&A, and
We all said
yeah.
yes.
Yes, sure we did.
But you've trained us well. Like we've just been carrying on business as usual. So
I'm super glad. Carry on. I'll just watch. Carry on.
All right, so the first question is from Christina Michelle, currently doing the glute biased RDLs with 30-pound dumbbells, which are her heaviest. I'm planning to buy adjustable dumbbells, but in the meantime, what can I use as a substitute to progress? I have a barbell, a landmine attachment, and a trap bar available. Eric, would you like to hit on that, Coach Eric? What do you think?
This is I love this. I love all you guys. I love being here. I'm super excited. That is an incredible problem to have, first and foremost. So you're just getting strong as fuck, which is great. What I would do in this situation is if you're doing a glute bias RDL and your dumbbells are too light, and this goes for, if you're doing, let's say you don't have heavier dumbbells for a chest press or something like that. Generally, if you can just swap for a barbell, I would just go ahead and do that. Is that like the most ideal thing? Listen, there's a dumbbell for a reason, there's a barbell for a reason, there's a trap bar for a reason, like everything's there for a reason. But in a situation like this, if you don't have heavier dumbbells and you can go heavier, I would just go ahead and use the barbell for right now and use that. So that's what I would say.
Very good job. Coach Mary?
Awesome. Next question is from Emily Rachel, and she says, these suitcase deadlifts are confusing to me because I normally think of deadlifts as more of a hinge at the hip movement, while these seem more like a squat movement. Should I be engaging more of my glutes and hinging at my hips to go back from the bottom, or engaging my quads more on the way up like a squat, which is what it looks like in the video?
Mm-hmm. That's a phenomenal question. It's a question that I had a very big question on at first too. I mean, Mary, you can go ahead and hit that first if you want to, actually. I know you probably have some ideas on that.
Yeah, they are tough and they take some time to figure out. I agree. And it looks like the main part of the question, should you be engaging your glutes more? And on the way up, should you be engaging your quads more? You do want to start with the hip hinge movement and then kind of go down into more of like a squat movement. So it almost kind of combines the two. On the way up, I would look to keep your weight more like in your back midfoot area to bias a little bit more glutes and not quite as much quads. But keep in mind, it's your core you're working on this exercise. So the big thing is that you're keeping your core stable and not rocking side to side, and that you're engaging your core. And, this is one I find you kind of have to go a little bit heavier on than you might think. Like I've always found that to really feel what it feels like to get that resistance and that, engagement on your core on the side where the weight is. So that's something you might want to do too, Emily, because I know you're strong as fuck, so you might need to go heavier.
Love all of that. Go heavier for sure, because Mary's 100% right there. And just remember, like, when you get to like the bottom of any deadlift, whether it's a sumo deadlift, whether it's conventional deadlift, whether it's a trap bar deadlift, if you're actually doing a deadlift and not an RDL, obviously those are two different things, right? But if you're doing a deadlift, the beginning of any deadlift is actually like a squat, because you have to like push your feet into the ground and your quads have to kind of like initially get you off the ground, and then your glutes and your hamstrings will take over and do the rest of the movement. So it's okay to feel a little bit of both there, right? Out of the very bottom, you will use some of your quads to start, and then as you kind of get back to that RDL movement, right, where the weights kind of get to like your mid to upper shin, then that's probably when you'll use your glutes and your hamstrings more to finish out that movement, Emily. So a little bit of both. And that last thing, like Mary said, that is a very, very core focused exercise. So it's not just glutes and hamstrings and that stuff are going to work, but it's also making sure you work your core as well. So yeah.
Sounds good. Next up, we got Rosalind Bullock. I reviewed the how much weight to lift lessons in the vault last night and this morning. I understand the linear and double progression concepts. Those are both described as different ways to improve in small increments over time. Last week's challenge of taking a set to failure has me wondering how to progress my barbell hip thrusts. I'm not sure if I should do a small adjustment or not. Reps were in the 8 to 10 range. I did first set of 10 at 135. The second set I intended to take to failure, and I did 17 reps at the same weight. Since I went far outside the rep range on the second set, should I add a lot more weight? I'm still a beginner and I'm trying to balance form, finding my strength limit, and getting into a steady flow of progressive overload.
These have been 3 really good questions. I should say that. Like I love these questions so far. Yeah, and by the way, I love you're the host, Linda. You're the host.
Yeah.
I love this. I don't gotta let anybody in. I'm chilling. All right,
I know. I'm like sitting here
I
going,
know. We're doing this. Phenomenal question, Rosalind. So here's what I'd say. You got the purpose of last week. Like that is exactly what you should have found out from last week. That's why we do those like going to failure challenges, because you need to figure out how strong you are. And you just figured out you did 17 reps to failure. Yes, make a bigger jump next week. Like it would be one thing if you did like 12 or 13 reps when you were supposed to do 8 to 10. That's one thing. You doing almost double the amount of reps that you were supposed to do. Yes, I would absolutely make a bigger jump up in weight. And, you know, again, a hip thrust like is traditionally a movement where you can add a lot more weight, maybe especially as a beginner, to find out where you are. I remember one of the members in here, Megan, Megan went from like, I think in 1 month, she went from like 135 to like 235 in 1 month, right? And like for a hip thrust, as you're finding your strength, that's actually somewhat normal. But for like a chest press or a bicep curl or even like a squat, like that might not happen. So I would definitely make a bigger jump there. And it's because of the fact that you did so many reps on that. And the more you do that, Rosin, the more you learn, the more you're going to figure out where your weight actually should be. But that part, you can't really rush. It just comes with trial and error. So you're doing everything right. Just keep doing what you're doing and you're going to learn along the process.
I have a question. How big of a jump should Rosalind make, you think, if she did 135 for 17 reps?
If the rep range is still 8 to 10, dude, I would go at least 185. That's what I'm thinking.
That's what I did, actually. I did.
There you go. There you go.
I did
how many reps did you did 185 for?
2 sets of 8 at 185.
There, that's perfect. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yep, that is at least wow. That was funny that happened like that. That's perfect. Yeah, and next week I would go to like, I might go to like 205 next week. Because that's 25 pounds on each side and throw a 35. Yeah, I would go to 205 next week and just like try it out and see how it goes.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Got it.
Awesome job, Rosalind, by the way. Coach Jamie, you are up next with a question from Amanda.
Amanda Downing Osborne, can you gain muscle and strength in maintenance, or will you need to go into a bulk?
Another good question, Amanda. Every one of these questions are good questions, but I just yes, again, I always refer to this, Amanda, as think of it as like a dial, like a dimmer dial. If you have it like in your house or something, you turn the dial up if you want to fucking make the lights super bright, and you can turn it down if you want them off, right? When you're in maintenance, it's not really like, if we're talking about strength and muscle building, not fat loss, talking about strength and muscle building, it's kind of like you're just slightly turning up that dial a little bit. Whereas like in a bulk, you would turn that thing all the way up. So let's just say, for example, if we're talking rough numbers, these are made up, but just stick with me here. If we're talking rough numbers, you might gain 0.25 pounds of muscle in a month in maintenance, whereas you might gain 1.5 pounds of muscle in a bulk. During a strength progression, you might gain, again, 10% strength in maintenance, you might gain 20% strength in a bulk, right? So generally speaking, just the more calories you have, the more fuel you have to work towards those goals. But if you're not in like a huge rush, I don't think it's overly that big of a deal. Like right now, could I technically go into a calorie surplus? I'm fucking starving since I started maintenance, by the way, which is a whole different thing I can talk about. But I could go into a bulk, but I'm not yet. So like, I know I'm not optimizing my muscle building as much as I could, but I don't really want to do a bulk at this very moment in time. I just want to get through the days at this moment in my life. So like right now I have some different goals and that's okay. Right. So that's generally how I think about it, Amanda. So pick whichever one, kind of fits right for you. If it is a bulk, that's awesome. And if not, that's okay as well. I wouldn't not do a bulk because you're scared. That's what I would try to steer you away from. If you want to do it, do it. Don't not do it because you're afraid you're going to get fat or gain weight or those sorts of things. So I don't know if any of the coaches have anything else there.
No. Good
Cool.
job, Coach Eric. That was really well handled.
Thank you, host Linda.
All right. Actually, like all joking aside, guys, all these questions today are like phenomenal. It's like, whoa, okay.
Let's go.
They're up in their game.
I love it.
Right? They're like, let's see what these coaches got. All right, Nikki Cameron. I've recently discovered I have an anterior pelvic tilt, and I think this is the cause of my on and off again lower back pain. Any tips on how to fix this? I've done the core strength and back strength programming, wondering if there are any other specific exercises or things I could try to fix this. It's interesting, Nikki, because just this week I sat on I was telling Coach Tara, an incredibly boring seminar on back pain, lower back pain, and this actually came up a lot. And I actually had an experience with this personally not a couple of years ago, probably about 6-7 years ago now. And there are certain things, like if you sit a lot behind a desk, you have to really kind of like adjust yourself a lot to get your spine into that neutral alignment. Because a lot of times what happens is during the course of the day, you start going over like this. So really kind of like working first and foremost on making sure that you're sitting your ass back in the seat. Then the next thing that you want to think about is also giving yourself breaks to get up, whether it's with a standing desk or literally setting yourself an alarm like every, hour or so, getting up and walking. And then there are some, they kind of like went to the extreme. They're like, no high heels. I'm like, what? But, heels do kind of like impact this. You can visit your podiatrist. Is that the right word for you Americans? But you can get like insoles into your shoes as well. And it just kind of like resets how you're standing, but it's got a lot to do with your spine alignment. And I'll say a lot of times kind of like tucking your pelvis underneath or like readjusting underneath, but it's got to do with how you walk, how you sit, and how you run. So a lot of times you just have to constantly be kind of like tucking, yourself in a different kind of position. So again, if you do a lot of sitting, make sure you take standing breaks or go into a standing desk and have like, kind of like that break as well. And you can get some insoles that will help too. So those were kind of like the big things there, and stretching as well. And it takes time, it takes effort, but it's definitely worth it because I used to have chronic back issues and anybody else have anything else? Eric?
Yeah, so Nikki, I also like, I touted myself having anterior pelvic tilt for the longest time. And essentially the thing you need to do is you need to, like Linda said, change your lifestyle behaviors. Like, for example, like I know we talked about this before, but the way I sleep. When I changed the way I sleep and I started sleeping on my back instead of sleeping on my side, that made a massive fucking difference for me, right? Like even stupid things like getting in and out of a car a certain way, or honestly, the way I go about like my strength training, making sure my form is where it needs to be, really backing off the weight, dialing in form, right? Like all of those things are really what helped me. And then strengthening, the reason your body looks like that is because there's an imbalance, generally speaking, in your glutes are a tad bit weaker, your core is a tad bit weaker. So you got to strengthen those two things more times than not. So that's really what I would say to add on to what Linda said. And this is where like, hey, Nikki, you did the ab assault, for example. It's like, maybe you do that ab assault again and like really, really, really focus on your form, really, really, really focus on doing the movement correctly, things of that nature. And that can really, really help you, Nikki. And the same thing with like, when you're doing the warm-ups for some of your lower body moves and that sort of stuff, like making sure you spend some time to really nail your form down as much as possible and slow down and do those movements like quality over quantity. That was my biggest thing when I had to help myself get that. It was quality over quantity. Cool.
Perfect.
Right.
Next question is from Kathleen Finklia, and it is, I was wondering about carbs and fat macros. I'm in a deficit now, but even when I bulked, I feel like one day I end up being 15 to 20 grams over in one and 15 to 20 grams under in the other. I stick to my calories and protein, but I can't seem to strike a balance with carbs and fat. Any suggestions for this?
Tara, you can start off on that one if you'd like to.
I mean, hearing that you're now in a deficit, I would say not to overly worry or stress about those macros at all. You know, if your calories and your protein are in check each day, don't even pay them any more attention. You know, if you're in a surplus, then it's a different conversation, but knowing that you're in a deficit, you can eat all the fat you want. If you're under those maintenance calories, you're not going to be gaining fat. It's not going to really matter too much. The one thing I do tell everybody is it is important to still track them though, you know, because when it comes to things like energy, your biofeedback, your sleep, we can kind of bring that information up, use that data to make correct decisions about if we need to add in more carbs, add in more fat. So it is a good thing to still track them, but I would not overly concern yourself with where those numbers are ending up, especially hearing that they're only 15 to 20 grams off of where you want to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So I would echo all of that. And again, like if you said like strike a balance, just remember everybody's balance is different. Like I think a lot of people are like, oh, okay, well, my protein needs to be 30%, this needs to be 40%, and this needs to be 25%. Like, especially as you're in a deficit or maintenance. And actually, Jamie, I'll call upon you and you can talk on this a little bit, but like, especially if you're in a deficit or maintenance, like everybody feels different, or feels better with different macro numbers. Like I know Linda's talked about this before as well. Like, you know, she might feel a tad bit better with lower carbs and higher fats. Like that. So that might be, her balance might be different than my balance, but it's what works best for you. And Jamie, you can have the floor here. Talk about like, you know, when you really ramped up your carbohydrate intake and what you had to do to make that feel like for you to feel better.
Yeah, so I actually experienced it in both my deficit and the current surplus that I'm in. So when I first started, I was kind of right around that 1700, 1800 calorie range. I think my protein target was around 130, 140 grams, and I was regularly eating 160 to 170 and felt amazing. And then as I started getting more aggressive with my deficit and got down around like that 1300 to 1400 calorie mark, I started finding that I needed to pull back on my protein and give myself some more carbs because I just didn't have energy. My mood was poor. My biofeedback was horrible. So I had to kind of rebalance things. When I kicked into maintenance, everything just kind of landed where the app calculator put me. But then when I went into my bulk, what I found was the amount of carbs that I was eating was just making me feel like crap. And so I had to dial those down and dial my protein up so that I could get to a place where energy wise, mood wise, all of those things, I was feeling more normal and more like myself. So I would also offer that at different stages and at different calorie ranges, you may need to play with things too, but it's really more important to pay attention to your biofeedback to figure out where you need to be. And then of course, like when you're in a bulk, you do want to pay special attention to that dietary fat, just so you're not adding more body fat than is necessary. But that's been my experience with it.
There you go. Good question.
All right. Up next, we got Tracy Parr O'Brien. Can you explain how grips and straps work to take pressure off of the forearms and how weight belts do the same for the back? I've never really worked with these items before, so I'm curious.
Yeah. I'll start with the belt. Think of the belt is just an external cue to help you brace your core better. So like, it's literally, you can think about it like if somebody was wrapping their hands around your stomach and you were to like push out against their hands, that's essentially what a belt does for you. And that helps give you a cue to be able to brace your core a little bit better. So it doesn't necessarily like, oh, it's automatically going to take pressure off your back. No, it just helps you externally like brace your core. The wrist straps part of it, did you say wrist like wraps or straps or both?
Grips and straps.
Okay. So the wrist straps, where like you strap it around the weight and you hold it with the weight, that just helps you hold heavier weight because like your grip and your forearm strength won't be the limiting factor anymore. The wrap will wrap around the weight and it'll kind of almost like attach to your hand to allow you to be able to lift a little bit heavier weight. Much to like people think this, it's not going to take away from your grip strength. Yeah, maybe you won't gain grip strength as quickly, but on the flip side of that, you need to understand that like when it comes to holding heavier weight, you're going to be able to get a stronger grip from holding heavier weight. So I think that would be the second part of it. And then wrist straps just keep you more, wrist wraps keep you more stable. So like as opposed to your wrist being all wonky like this, wrap it up and then it's almost like an ankle wrap or like an ankle wrap. You can't move that mobile joint as much anymore. So you can't get too much flexion out of it, which then makes it so you don't like put as much strain on your wrist.
Those help me a ton with like my squats and stuff.
I
Because I feel
remember.
like wrist mobility is not talked about a ton. And it's like, especially with front squats and like back squats, if you're getting underneath, that bend in your wrist can really cause some pain. So
You remember when I sent you that video of me with a fucking broom and I was like,
Yeah.
try a low bar squat? You remember that? Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, there you go. It was a good question.
All right. From Lily, I'm sure this has been asked a billion times, but when do you know when you should go into a surplus? The thought of gaining weight on purpose literally gives me massive anxiety. I just started in January, so I'm assuming I'm not in this category yet. At least I hope not yet.
Is this Lily Salazar?
Yeah.
It is. Yes.
She's a savage, dude. She's a savage. Linda, you can start with that one if you want.
I'm not a good person to start with talking about bulks. Me and Coach
Bullshit.
Tara hate bulking.
No bullshit because you had a bunch of anxiety around your first one and you still did
That
it.
is true. I have fought for so long to have a better relationship with food and my body and like drop some body weight. So it was just like changing my entire mindset around the fact that I was intentionally going to be putting on weight. But it's interesting because Eric always says if you're terrified of doing something, that's probably the reason why you need to do it. I don't think that there's necessarily the perfect time to do it, honestly. I think as far as my training was concerned, I just reached a stage where I was like, okay, I'm past those newbie gains. And I wonder what it would be like to get even stronger and kind of like push that limit there. And for me, it was more about appreciating what my body could do, what I was able to kind of like accomplish, and taking the whole kind of pressure, I guess, of being in a constant deficit, being in that mindset. And that's why I did it. At first I was like, oh, horrified because and everybody will put on weight a different way. For me, when I first went into it, I did what we would traditionally call a dirty bulk, where I'm just like, okay, just eat more calories. And it was a whole bunch of bullshit versus like making sure my macros were still in line with my goals. So my weight just like went boom, like 5 pounds literally in 1 week. And I'm like, holy shit. And then it's like I dialed it in and understood that I wasn't just not dieting anymore. I was like on purpose trying to build muscle, and that required like more energy, like more fuel, so to speak. So, I mean, that was my experience with it. I'm super, super, super glad I did it. Just because it really changed my relationship with my kind of like my body overall. And it's cool. It's cool to know that you can lift like a lot heavier when you have that fuel. So all of that, it was a mental kind of process for me. I don't know if that answers your question per se. I'm curious what Tara's got on this one.
something super similar. I'm happy that I did the one that I initially had done. I don't think I'd ever put myself back into the position where I would go into a dedicated bulk. Just there's many reasons, like even down to like I don't feel like buying new clothes, and like it's just something that kind of happens when you do that. So I think as far as like how do you know when you should go into a surplus, there's not really a marker there. There's nobody telling you have to go into a surplus. Is it something that I think helped my relationship with food? Absolutely, because instead, like I started looking at food as like fuel. Like I'm gonna use what I'm eating now to go into the gym and lift heavy weights. So even in my maintenance periods now, when I have a day where I'm eating extra food, my mind doesn't beat myself up for it. My mind now goes, I can't wait to work out tomorrow because I have all these extra calories. And prior to that, like what it sounds like from Lily in the chat, it's terrifying. It's not something that is your mind wants you to do. So I would just understand that it's going to be terrifying if and when you do it. It's not something that you're going to want to necessarily continue to do, but it does have massive benefits when it comes to your relationship with yourself and the food that you eat.
Yeah.
And I think I would just add, like, I knew it was time when my goals changed. So I got to the end of my deficit. It was no longer about trying to be smaller or trying to lose fat. And honestly, as the weight came off and I started seeing all the muscle that I had built, it just kind of lit that fire even more. And I'm like, oh my God, I want to go get all of the muscles and I want to be able to see all of the muscles. And for me, from a mindset perspective, it was interesting because I went from a 14-month deficit to all of a sudden, well, now I'm going to go eat more so I can gain weight. And when you look at it purely from that perspective, it doesn't make a ton of sense. But now that I'm in it, what keeps coming to me is I'm in control. I am in total control of how I'm approaching my journey, how I'm going after my goals, what I'm eating, how much I'm eating. I'm doing this intentionally. Is it uncomfortable to kind of feel the shorts getting tighter, et cetera, et cetera? Yeah, but I know it's temporary and I know I'm in control. And that's what kind of keeps that fear at bay, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see the results in the gym. Like the amount of weight that I'm moving right now is so fun.
Yeah.
So fun.
That's why I want to go back to do one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mary, you're the one, I think you've been in the bulk the longest out of all of us. And so what are your 2 cents on it, you think?
Everyone really hit on it. I've done, I think, 4 at this point, and I love being in a bulk. And for me, it's just like when you feel like, you're not in a deficit, you don't need to lose weight, and maybe your progress in the gym is plateauing a little bit. You want to see more changes to your body, get stronger, build more muscle. That's when you shift into a bulk. And the weight gain side of things, sounds scary, but once you start doing it, kind of like everyone says, you realize how much control you have. It's fun. It's not bad if your shorts get tighter. That's not a bad thing at all for some people. So yeah, I think bulks are awesome. And not if you're afraid of it, that's even more reason to do it because it's going to improve your relationship with food.
Yep. So there you go, Lily. And the only last thing I would say there is usually if you want to, like, just from a number standpoint, generally speaking, when men get down to about 12 to 15% body fat, that's when they can go ahead and bulk. And then when women get down to about 18 to 22% body fat, if you do want to go into a bulk, generally speaking, again, these are just general numbers, but generally speaking, that's where you would go ahead and do that because it would make sense. If you're 30% body fat, I don't necessarily 40% body fat, like, it doesn't really make much sense to do it then. But, like everybody said, as you lose some of the weight, if you want to go into a bulk, it's when you do it. So yeah, great question.
Absolutely. All right, Ms. Leah Hoffaker, a question for the runners out there. So this is for you, Eric. I'm doing a 12K in May. I usually just walk it, but this year I'm planning on running parts of it. To train, I've been running a mile twice a week to try and increase my stamina a bit. I'm planning on kicking up the training a bit more for March and April. I plan on doing the runners program 3 days a week. And we'll be in maintenance. Would you recommend adding more days of running or increasing the time and mileage on the 2 days I already run? All joking aside, let's ask Coach Tara before we actually get Eric's take on this, because Tara was a runner too, right?
Former in my past life.
Something
Something that helped a lot with my stamina when I was running was doing, I don't know what they're called. It's like a fartlek or something like that. It's like you're running, like, I don't know how to explain it the best. It's almost like walking and running, like you're breaking it up, you're breaking your run, you're jogging for a little bit and then running a little bit faster, jogging a little bit, kind of setting yourself up so you have a day of running at, like, let's say your race pace, running at a slower pace, doing some sort of sprint. So like there's different ways you can go about it, but doing those types of runs where you're not going all out every single time will actually pay off more in the long run than going out there and running as fast as you can every single time. I would work on running and keeping your heart rate down. I forget who was talking about it in the Facebook group a couple of weeks ago, but going out for runs, let's say normally you run for 20 minutes, try and keep your heart rate below a certain number when you're going out for those runs. That's where you're going to see that increased stamina and be able to go for longer. So working on that, but I would probably say to increase your mileage over time, not necessarily increasing the number of days you're running, but just work on increasing that mileage as you get closer.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that too. And I do think, yeah, and Victor's like a great resource as well.
Mhm.
He is the running man, but just
Dude,
like
that guy, I'm sorry to cut you off. That
right?
guy, Victor, I mean, the guy's just an animal. Like, he's just an animal. Like, he's not a,
It's the way he smiles through it too. It's
he's a
like,
specimen.
yeah,
He's not a
okay.
real human being, man. Like
Wait,
the amount of weight the guy lifts and the amount that he runs, like just
Yep.
absurd. Like
well, and you got to be careful with Victor because he'll get you up thinking you're going for 2 miles and he'll run a half and pull you along with him. So just watch out for that.
I'll be on the ground. He won't literally be pulling
Be
me.
up on the way back, Victor.
well, he can. He's strong enough to, so he can. Yeah. I'm sorry, Linda. Please keep going.
No. But the other thing that you could do, Leah, is depending on like, your lift days, how you feel after your lift. One of the things that's always helped me is getting on the treadmill, like, maybe like 10 minutes for 10 minutes afterwards and doing sprint training. So like 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, and kind of like seeing that. So you will actually push your heart rate up on that, but it just allows you to kind of like get used to the turnover of your legs, seeing what actually works, and then kind of like putting that into play with what Tara said, which is once you get that cadence, then you know the rhythm of like how to run. So you definitely, if you want to run, it depends on how much of that race you want to run, because there's tons of awesome run walk training programs for like all kinds of like race distances. So maybe look at that if that's kind of like your plan, but you probably will have to up your your runs a little bit, because I think you said a mile twice a week, just to get you past that 1 mile situation. Usually like that first mile, I don't know what it is, but it's like, oh, but once you start getting into the second and third mile, you start getting into more of a rhythm. So kind of like practicing that. It's amazing though that you're like looking at that right now. So you've got like 2 solid months. And just what's your nutrition as well, Leah? Because you said you're going to go into maintenance. Just be aware that it wouldn't be a bad thing to kind of like go a little bit surplusy, because you're going to use it up. I promise you're going to use it up, right? And make sure you're getting enough carbs in there as well for your energy. So yeah.
I
Great.
use the Nike Run Club app. Was
Okay.
incredible. I followed that to a T when I was running, and it got me up to like a 10K within a few months.
Nice. Yeah. I'll give no insight here because I have nothing good to offer you. So I'll just leave myself out of this conversation, and we can I want to hit on some ones from the chat. Tracy, I love what Tracy said. Like, definitely improves your relationship with food for the bulk. I love that. I've also seen people going back and forth on Bailey's comment here in the chat about you've been in deficit it sounds like you've been in deficit for a while. You haven't changed much, but you're hungrier. Just remember a couple things there. Number one, if you've increased your activity level, like, if you're trying to get more steps or doing more cardio or something like that, like I know some people in here are really trying to bump up their steps for a step goal or something like that. So that could make you a tad bit hungrier. And then number two, if you actually have been in a calorie deficit for, a couple of weeks, a couple of months at a time, that can kind of play a role in your hunger hormones. And so like, if you're in a deficit for 6 weeks in a row, it's like, your hunger hormones are a little bit out of whack, right? And that's why, maybe sometimes taking a diet break or something like that could potentially be beneficial. But just wanted to throw that out there. And then Leah, for the recovery part of it for your glute, try to do as much stretching as you can on it. I'm not a huge stretching guy, but like as much as you can. And foam rolling, again, not a huge foam rolling guy, but in a situation like this, you just want some like blood flow to that area as much as you can. So stretch, foam roll, and even just doing like simple single leg glute bridges or double leg glute bridges throughout the day to, again, just get some blood flow to that area, generally speaking, does help.
Cool. Next question is from Carla Morellis, and this isn't about me, but my friend is worrying about different diet-related things a bit much. And it's to the point where she thinks the carbonation in Coke Zero is bad and is worried that it can somehow ruin her progress. I don't know where that idea is coming from, but I was wondering if this is some sort of a new thing in the toxic diet culture sphere. I hope to encourage her to join the clubhouse one of these days and leave the dark side of toxic diet culture. But I was wondering if you've heard this before. There are some wild things out there.
There certainly are.
Before Eric starts going off there, Carla, can you email us over to the Clubhouse email with your friend's info, please? Okay, her email address, or if she has an Instagram.
Yeah, I mean,
Take it away, Eric.
Carla, yeah, there's some wild things out there, but that's why, a side note here, I'm going to brag about us for a tad bit. I'll answer your question, Carla. This is why I think what we're doing with the clubhouse, with all these amazing coaches, with all you guys here, that's why I think it's so important to do what we do, and why, like, the amount of, like, you hear this a lot, misinformation, like the amount of but really, like, carbonation and fucking, like, diet soda or salsa water, like, what the fuck are we talking about at this point, man? Like, and I see people on the internet fucking literally going at each other's throats about seed oils or about sugar or whatever the fuck it is. And I'm just like, holy shit. Like, I can imagine if you don't know, if you're not educated in the fitness space, it's like, what is even going on? Like, the amount of people who are just like, fuck this, I'm not even gonna try. Like, I'm doomed. I'm a lost cause. There's so much bullshit out here. Fuck it, I'll stay where I'm at. I think it's just so important. And so, I thank you guys for being here. You guys can thank all the amazing coaches that help us out every single day. And if you guys have people who, need help, tell them to join the fucking clubhouse, man. Like, it's really important what we do here. So, side note to all this, I have no clue about carbonation and so I haven't seen that one yet, Carla, no. But I think one of the best things I would just say is, number one, sending her as much good information as you possibly can. I like to think I have a good amount of information out there in the internet world. And so sending information on that, have her shoot us an email. Like, if anybody knows me, a lot of people here joined the clubhouse from me answering their emails when you weren't a fucking member. So, like, send us an email. Tell her to send me an email. I'll give her, I'll go in depth. I'll give her studies. I'll give her this. Like, tell her to, reach out for help, and we'd love to help her. And then number three, last, is just like, if you're drinking diet soda or whatever it is and you're losing body fat, show her. It's like, hey, here's the progress I've seen. Here's my food log. I've drank diet soda 3 times a week for the past 4 weeks, and I've lost 4 pounds and 2 inches off my waist. Because at that point, it's like, well, what is she going to say then? Like, I'd be like, well, I saw this video. It's like, fuck your video. Like, look at here's my actual progress. So those are the couple things I would say. But yeah, man, it's fucked out there. That's why it's why I'm investing so much money into the app. It's why we're building the coaching team. It's why we're doing all these things. Like, we want to help people. Like, it's a real thing. There's just so much bullshit out there. So yeah, I could get going.
Side note story, but just about like the craziest that is out there. My cousin now works she's a nurse. She's had numerous different jobs. She's been in hospitals, but she recently got a job at a weight loss clinic. And my brother has been trying to lose weight, the whole thing. Trust me, I would love to help, but he doesn't want my help. So he reached out to her and said that he was going to come in. And I was under the impression that they were giving out like Ozempic shots, doing things like that at the clinic. They told him that for the first week he's there, he has to eat, mind you, he is 6'4", probably 280, played football his whole life. They told him to eat 700 calories. And I looked at him, I said, if you fucking do that, I was like, I'll never speak to you again. But like, that's what they're telling people to do. And they said the first week is 700 calories, nothing but protein. And then we maybe introduce vegetables next. And it's like, people are falling into this shit every fucking day, and they don't need to.
Well, and even the worst part, I'm going to tack onto that. That's fucked as it is. Like, and I've heard that before. But what's actually the worst part is, let's just say he did do that. He did that. And let's say he introduced vegetables again. Let's just say he did lose 20, 30, 40 pounds, whatever it is. The really fucked up part about all of this, it's very in the supplement industry too. It's like, he does that. He can't sustain that, or he doesn't see progress, and he says, fuck, it's me.
Yeah.
It's not this, it's not that, it's me. Fuck, I'm a loser. I'm a failure. I can't fucking do this. And that's what makes people just quit for months, years, or the rest of their life. Because they think there's something wrong with them. So no matter what they do, they're not going to lose the weight anyway. So why even fucking try? Why would you even try to stay on track? Why would you try to go and work out? You're not going to be healthy anyway. It's not going to fucking matter. So like, these are the reasons why it's, and for you guys too, it's not just like what we do in the clubhouse, but like, you got to live by the example and live by the standard, because other people need to see it. And whether they see it right away or it takes years or anywhere in between, it's like, these just continue to be very, very important things. And yeah, just it's important. So if you can't tell, we feel very strongly about this. So.
It pisses me off. Oh my God. I wanted to go to that clinic. I was like, give me an address, because you can't, I can't. I don't even want to get into it too much.
Yeah.
But next question, Steph D. How do you make chicken breast gym bro style? For example, not 400 ingredients, and not have it taste like rubber for the next 3 days when having it as leftovers. I have an air fryer and a stove and an oven.
Dude, my go-to is I could tell you right now, I'm looking at the ingredients. On mine, I get a pack of chicken. This is the actual gym bro, so I can tell you. I get a pack of chicken, get a big bowl. I put Lowry's chicken seasoning. Let's go. I put red pepper flakes. I put salt, and I put cinnamon. And I just fucking, my hands are like this. I get a lot of shit in my hands. I wipe it off. I just throw it in the air fryer, 25 minutes, take it out, and it's done. That's all I do. If I do more than that, I would shoot myself. So that's what I do, Steph. I'm not sure if somebody else has something that they want to add to that, or.
I go with
combine,
garlic
yeah.
powder, onion powder, paprika, and if I'm feeling crazy, fajita seasoning.
Mary?
I just do salt and pepper and I cook it in the Instant Pot, but it tastes like rubber and I eat it anyway. So that's kind of where I'm at.
That's the actual gym bro. That's the actual gym bro. Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to do that, Mary. Dude, I can't do that anymore. Like, I used to do the exact same thing you just did. I've
Or even the everything but the bagel seasoning. I used to season chicken with that too.
I was gonna say, I like Flavor God. They've got like a garlic lovers seasoning, and then they also have one that's everything spicy, and that's amazing.
Ooh,
Yep.
that sounds good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Cool. Really quickly, I think Rosalind asked in the chat, two things I hear consistently: newbie gains are inevitable as long as you progressive overload. You can't gain muscle in deficit. My scale has been stalled, so I'm unsure if I'm gaining muscle. I'm a newbie on a slight calorie deficit. Will I not gain muscle until I go into maintenance? So no, Rosalind. So as we mentioned earlier, especially if you're a beginner, you're going to gain muscle no matter what. So you just keep rocking. Even when you're in a calorie deficit or a maintenance, it's not that you don't gain muscle, you just gain muscle at a much slower rate. So you absolutely are gaining muscle right now. So I would just keep doing everything that you're doing. And you should be, I mean, you're killing it, Rosalind, especially if you're, continue to find out how strong you are, so on and so forth. You should be good. Kevin said, my sister wants to know how to get in more protein in her diet. She said there's no way she can do it with chicken or other meat products. She likes them, but can't do it in volume. How can she work in more protein, and how much should she be getting her day? Yeah, I mean, Kevin, honestly, man, like with someone like that, I would just get them to start tracking how much they are getting, to get a baseline before you shoot for some goal. If she's getting 40 grams, I'm not going to tell her to get 100 grams per day. I'm going to tell her to get 60 grams per day and then 80 grams per day, right? The thing about, she likes them but can't do it in volume, I sometimes am a piece of shit because sometimes it depends in the mood I'm in. Sometimes I'm just like, fucking do it anyway. That's what I want to say, but I'm not going to say because I like you and I like your sister, Kevin. I guess the other things I would add are just, finding other protein sources that are easy to kind of consume, like Greek yogurt, for example. Like you don't have to eat a lot of Greek yogurt to get a lot of like protein from it, or string cheese, for example. Like I bought string cheese for a video. I wasn't even going to eat it, but it's here. And so I'll fucking eat it now. But like there's 6 grams of protein in that fucking thing. You have 2 of those per day. That's 12 more grams of protein. If she's going from 50 grams per day, she has 2 fucking string cheeses. She's at 62 grams per day. She's rocking and rolling, right? So I think those are a couple different things, I would say. Gigi said, Eric, you mentioned you're hungry and hungry in maintenance. What should one do about that? What happens when you're in maintenance post deficit and still hungry? Wait it out and let it sort it out, or bump your calories. No, I'm bumping my calories, Gigi. So I've been at like the week prior is probably at like 3,000 to 3,100. So this upcoming week, I'm going to be around, I say 32. I'm actually going to like 33, 3,400 because yeah, man, if I'm hungry, I'm not playing this fucking game. Like you boys are going to eat some food. So it's because when you give your body the more fuel, like it burns more, right? So it's a normal thing. It's called G flux. If you want to look it up a bit more, G flux, it's called that. So that's what it is. Your body burns more when you are, when you're eating more. So yeah, and I am not playing that game. Like I've been waking up starving. Yeah, I'm like, no, I'm not doing that.
Will that put you into a surplus?
So there's a fine line there. Like you can't just go on and do this forever. So G flux doesn't just happen forever, right? So there's a line, but you have to like toe the line. And that's where I think like for me right now, I'm towing the line of like, where is the top end of my maintenance calorie range? It might be 3,800, it might be 3,600, or it might be this 3,400, or it might be 4,000. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to eat more. I'm going to track my body weight. I'm going to see where I am. When I start to notice I'm continuously gaining weight, cool, I've like overshot my maintenance calories just a tad bit too much, and I'll pull back by 100 or 200 and I'll be good. So it's just a matter of like playing that game, if that makes sense. Cool. Wonderful. I think there was more.
Yeah, Lily's asking you about the Zumba people.
I've been trying to get people that go to Zumba to sign up for the clubhouse. I stopped going to hit with them, and they're all curious. I think they're noticing a bit more difference. Yeah, difference on me. I can see because I can see jack shit. All they do is ask, and I give them info. All the info. I even showed them the app. One started following Eric and downloaded the free workouts. The rest of them say they're taking spin. They can burn more calories. They even try to go with me. And I say, hell no. Sometimes you can give them all the info, but it's really on them. Yeah. And remember, Lily, I think the one thing, and listen, if again, I will personally reach out to them if they fucking like, if you want me to, and if they want me to, I'm more than happy to have conversations with people. And so feel free to do that. But I think the other thing too, is just remember sometimes, unfortunately, and we don't want this because we as humans want everything now. We want shit to happen now. It might take that person a year or 18 months or 24 months or 3 months. Who knows? But sometimes people just like, there's a reason I send. So here's a little secret for you guys. I send my emails that I'm sure a lot of you guys get. I send those emails either every day or 3 times a week. Why? Because at some point, somebody's going to wake up. They're not going to be able to fit their fucking pants on. And they're going to say, fuck this. Today's the day. Like, I'm doing something to change this, right? Or they're going to go to a spin class one time. They're going to go. They're still not going to like the way they look. And they're going to say, fuck this. I'm doing something different. So, but it might take them a certain period of time to get there. And so you just try to show up, show people how it's done, help them as much as you can, support them, be there for them, give them value, give them education, give them knowledge. And at some point, I'm sure a lot of you in here, like you probably signed up because you're like, fuck it, like today's the day, I'm doing it. But you might have read I had somebody recently, literally, it's no bullshit. I started posting content in 2020. Literally last week, somebody was like, Eric, been following since 2020, just joined. I'm like, 4 years? I'm like, I had to wait 4 fucking years for you to join, but like, now they're here and now we can help them. You know what I mean? So sometimes it just takes time. So keep living the way you want to live and keep setting the example you want to set, and people are going to follow no matter what eventually. So yeah, cool. I'm sorry. Let's continue with the questions from the chat. Actually, really quickly, team, do we know who's covering phone calls from 1 to 2? Do we ever get that figured out?
I assume Judith. I think Judith is doing it. I have SOS calls from 1 to 2. So
wonderful. Okay. Well, Tara or Linda, can we reach out to Judith and make sure it's happening? If not, one of us will pop off. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. Next question is from Becca Daly. What is the best way to do exercise that's one leg and then the other? Do you do the leg right after the other, or do you do allocated rest time and then do the other leg? I can't seem to figure out the best way, so I'm not gassed going into another set.
I think you just answered your question, Becca. Don't go into your next set gassed. Whatever that means for you, just do that. So if you have to take, so the way I normally do it, I'll do my left leg, I'll rest however long, really, if I'm not like super crunched on time. I know some people in here, like you're very, very crunched on time, but like if you're not super crunched on time, I would rest as long as you need to rest in between that leg and then go into your next leg. rest for 2 to 3 minutes, go into your next leg, right? So leg, rest as long as you need to, leg, rest 2 to 3 minutes, just repeat that. And that's the way I would run that. If you have the time. If you're really short on time and you're like, I can barely fucking finish my workouts as it is, I would say usually 30 to 90 seconds in between your sets is a good amount of time. But yeah, there's no right or wrong answer there.
Perfect. All right, Nicole Johnson, is there anything that can be done pre, during, or post workout to help prevent DOMS or at least make it not so bad when it comes?
Yeah. So a couple things. When you first start a workout program, usually there's going to be a lot more DOMs that come along with that, right? So just keep that in mind. Number two, the things you can do is post-workout, doing something with potentially stretching, foam rolling, things of that nature that could help. Making sure you have your electrolytes, sodium, potassium, magnesium. You don't necessarily need to like take an electrolyte powder. You can get that through food or through supplementation. Lightly salting some of your meals or putting salt in your water. Having magnesium, taking that through the pill form, usually, or powder form, and then being able to have potassium through foods. Generally speaking, things like potatoes, things like bananas, those you can do a quick Google search. Google will help you out. So those are the three things for that. Enough water as well. That can also, be a big factor. And then just getting overall movement throughout the day. That can really help blood flow as well. And then protein. So making sure you're hitting your protein goal and trying to, there's the whole, like, you don't have to get protein within, 30 minutes of your workout, and you don't, but there is some merit to making sure you have protein around your workout time to help with recovery and help with muscle protein synthesis. So those are a few things I would throw at you for DOMs. And then really quickly, I saw somebody in the chat, and please forgive me, it doesn't show your name in the chat, it just says iPhone, so I apologize, but please, you can let us know your name. I just joined the clubhouse yesterday. Welcome. We're super stoked to have you. Will a coach tell me how long to stay in a deficit for? 4 to 6 weeks? ? So iPhone, whoever this is, please feel free to shoot us an email, or you can even drop it in this chat again as well. And we'd love to help you out with your specific situation. Generally speaking, the way we do a calorie deficit is it depends on what your goal is, how much weight you have to lose, and, kind of what's going on. Like, for example, I did a 9-week calorie deficit because I was going on vacation after that. And I really, I didn't have 50 pounds to lose, for example, right? So if maybe like, you don't have a ton of weight to lose, like maybe we do set a goal for you. But if like, hey, I have 40, 50, 60 pounds to lose, that might take you a year plus. So we're not going to say, oh, you have to be in deficit for a year, right? Maybe that's more of just let's start to change some lifestyle habits. You might go over in calories a day or two here and there, and that's going to be okay, right? But it really is dependent on the person. So just feel free to reach out to us or let us know your name and we can reach out to you. We'd love to help you out. So yeah.
Bye, guys. Have a good
Bye,
time.
Mary. Have a great Friday.
Mary.
So the next question is quite simply, Eric, retreat.
Retreat ? Who asked that? Jessica?
Ashley McElroy.
She really wants to go. That's why.
She does.
Yeah, man. Retreat ? I have answers on the retreat. I can't tell you fuckers yet. I have answers on the retreat. I do have some, not all the answers, but I do have some of the answers, but I can't give them to you right now. Expect to hear more about the retreat in 2 weeks, on not next Friday, but the Friday after that. On this live, you'll hear it first right here. So if you want to be notified about the retreat, that's where you'll hear more information first.
Perfect. All right, Tara.
Next up, we got Amber Jeffords. Can you please explain deload weeks? How do you know it's time to take one? How much do you decrease your weights by? And Coach Judith did send some resources her way. One of them was a YouTube video. The other one was one of your podcasts. So it was kind of it.
There you go, Judith. So Amber, first and foremost, I'm super stoked you're here. Amber was on the fence she was here once before. She was on the fence about coming back because she, maybe she didn't be as consistent as she'd like to, but she committed. She's here, and so I'm super happy, Amber. So hopefully in the resources Judith sent, you got some information there. But generally speaking, the first week of every single workout program that you follow is going to be a deload week. And that's because there's new exercises and we have to be able to learn those new exercises. You won't be able to push those as close to failure as you possibly can. So the first week as a new workout comes about, so every 4 to 5 weeks, that's when your deload week will be. Cool.
Awesome.
Did we figure out the 1 p.m. phone calls?
Yeah, Judith's not.
Okay, thank you.
Next question is from Esmeralda Romero. This is more of a confession and need for advice, crying face. So it's been tough successfully getting those X's on my calendar. I've struggled with staying consistent with my nutrition and I'm guilty of untracked extra bites, licks, and tastes. Honestly, it's what has set me back from truly hitting my goals for a while now. So I work from home 4 days a week, and I always find myself to be hungry and going to the kitchen for a water break between breakfast and lunch. In fact, my breakfast is the Berry overnight oats from the Clubhouse app. Love them. And my lunch is the Sloppy Joe. But for some reason, after I eat my oats, I'm still wanting more. I know that I'm in a deficit, so I'm going to be a little hungry, but shouldn't that be more towards the end of the day? And I only made room in my calories for one snack at the end of the night. This is my 3rd official week of doing my workouts and tracking my food with you guys. And there isn't a week yet where I can confidently say I hit X's on 4 consecutive days. I can't be a lost cause, right? I'm afraid my calendar is going to only be zeros. Truth is, I don't like how it's looking right now. Some days it's hard to put that O on paper, y'all. I'm not even gonna lie. I know I'm not eating enough calories to put me over my maintenance in this gain crazy pounds, but also I'm not helping myself stay in the needed deficit to lose body fat by taking those extra bites and tastes. Any advice on how to curb my hunger and try to beat this?
That's why we do Q&As. That question right there, I couldn't tell you how fucking happy it makes me you asked that question, Esmeralda. So like that's number one. But seriously, like I just want to like clap it up for you because that's incredible. All right, there's gonna be a lot of things here. We'll kind of go coach by coach here and just kind of like chime in. I'll go ahead and start. I think one of the first things that you could potentially do, because you mentioned something that was kind of interesting. You said, I only have room for one snack. Something that and you also said, like, you know, you're not going like hundreds of calories over, but like you're just not staying in the range. I might just slightly bump up your range for right now. So if let's just say, for example, you're at 1,600 calories, 16 to 1,800, whatever it is, I might make your range 17 to 1,900, for example. It might not seem like a lot, and it might seem like, well, I'm already doing that, Eric. But when you just like slightly change the target and you start stacking up those X's a lot more, you'll probably feel like, shit, I'm good. I'm rocking and rolling. I feel way better right now. So I think one of the first things you could potentially do, because that's the thing, if let's just say, I'll use as the example, 16 to 1,800, you go to 17 to 1,900, like that's your range. You're going to be in a calorie deficit, you're going to lose body fat, and you're going to see progress. And so you can do that, feel like you're moving in the right direction, not feel like you're failing at something. And then from there, you might already be moving in the right direction. So that's like, there's a million things. That's the first thing. What do you think, Linda?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly the first thing that I would go to is raising up like about 100 calories to get that second snack in. The other thing that you could think about is with that second snack, switch it. So you talked about loving those the berry oatmeal, the overnight oats, right? I would almost like look to have like 100-calorie snack, like a Oikos Greek yogurt or something like around about 100, 150 calories first thing. And then move your breakfast into snack position and then like your lunch. So you could kind of like swap that a little bit because you love those berry oats. It's interesting that you talk about oats because I find whenever I eat oats for breakfast, I'm actually hungrier quicker between like my snacks too. So I'm wondering if kind of like switching that so there's a little bit less time between that particular like recipe or that particular meal in your lunch. But I totally agree with Eric. And the thing about it is just moving up like 100, 150 calories will actually help you overall, because what happens is you stop beating yourself up. You start, like he said, getting those snacks, stacking those wins rather. And inevitably you are kept in your deficit overall versus like the whole mind game, the mental aspect of constantly like not seeing that X. But the only other thing I'm going to say before like we head it over to Tara is remember, guys, those X's and O's, they don't determine you as a human being. Those are just a tool. It's just like we talk about the scale being a data point. that calendar is just a data point for you. So if you're seeing a lot of O's, okay, what do I need to change, right? It's got nothing to do with your self-worth. So that would be the only other thing I would say there, but definitely adding in like an extra 100, 150 calories to get that little snack.
Mhm. I think I would say don't get caught up in thinking that you have to set up your days, your meals a certain way. Every single person is going to be super different in their preference of how they like their meals. You know, if something that you're doing right now isn't working, try something else. You know, maybe I'm not sure like the calorie count, the protein for like the sloppy Joe, but maybe you can allot those calories in a better way that fits the way that you like to eat a little bit more. I like to volume eat. I like to be eating multiple meals throughout the day. Some people like to have 3 large meals throughout the day. So it's going to look very different for every single person. So I really encourage you to just like try something new, try something different that is not 3 meals, 2 snacks, or 3 meals, 1 snack. You know, try and make those meals a little bit smaller, maybe rely a little bit more on higher volume foods, sorry. Because the sloppy Joe, while it probably tastes incredible, you can probably figure out a different meal that gives you a little bit more food, maybe even a little bit less calories, more protein. So take some time, you know, and rework the plan. That's one of my like something that I started doing more of because I was very set in my ways with what I was eating, when I was eating, and I've now switched up almost every single one of my meals. And I just feel better throughout the day. I don't feel like I'm ever starving, even though I am in a deficit. I have different types of snacks. I call them like my floating snacks. There's no set time that I'm having them every day. You know, I have 2 snacks that are going to be in between my lunch and dinner. And if I want it right after I eat my meal, I have it then. If I'm a little bit hungry later on, I have it at a different time. So just don't get set in one way of thinking that you have to be doing something in a certain way. There are different ways to go about it. So just try something different and see if that works a little bit more than what you have been doing.
Awesome. What do you think, Jamie?
I would say the same thing. You know, when I first started, I was doing the 3 meals, 2 snacks, and I actually found that I felt more satisfied when I had bigger meals at a go and I could go longer before the hunger started kicking in again. The other thing too is check your schedule, because I found too, like if I tried to just really eat around the same times every day, that kind of helped me dial in those hunger and satiety hormones a little bit better as well. I don't see much about timing in here, but maybe just take a look at that. But it really is Tetris, and it's kind of figuring out, okay, based on how I'm feeling, how can I move all of my calories and my protein around to feel good? And then a lot of people have posted in the chat, and I had the same experience, having oatmeal first thing in the morning. And Linda said this too. I was hungrier sooner when I switched over to like my protein shakes, or when I was having eggs and things along those lines, just a different kind of breakfast. I was able to stay satisfied for longer. So maybe check into that too. Maybe you can move those oats to, you know, like your afternoon snack or even your evening snack, and maybe that'll do you a little bit better.
Yep. I love that. And the last thing I'll say, you're not supposed to figure it out in 3 weeks, man. Like it's 3 fucking weeks. Like you're doing an incredible
I
job.
just said I'm 6 years into my health and fitness journey, and I'm still making changes. Like.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. Like don't think you have to. That's like, again, that's like saying, I wrote an email on this, but like that's like saying you have to go into the gym, lift 5 pounds week 1 and 500 pounds week 3. It's like, that's absurd. You would never think that, but for some reason you think that's how it's supposed to be with our nutrition. So that's what I would say. We don't want to give you too much because like I want you to go take these things and put them in action and try it out. But you know, let us know and keep us posted because we want to help you as much as we can. So really quickly, Tracy in the chat, I saw your question, Tracy. I wouldn't really change much of your pre-workout meal, Tracy. I didn't change my pre-workout meal when I went into my calorie deficit. It was still my Rice Krispies and my protein shake. I changed all the other meals. So if you're going to go into a deficit, change all the other meals. Don't change your pre-workout meal, and that way you can still continue to have a good amount of fuel for yourself. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. That's how I went about mine personally.
Perfect. All right. Jessica Gata. I know right now we're in a strength building period. What comes next, Eric? I'm trying to decide whether or not to just do lats and delts heading into summer so I can be built like a linebacker for June. Hell yeah, Jessica.
Sorry, I completely fucking zoned out. She's wondering if I'm sorry. She wants to know whether to do.
Yeah, what are you programming next after the strength building period? She's kind of like debating whether or not to do the lats and delts.
Hypertrophy work. We're doing hypertrophy work.
Right,
So
there you go.
There you go.
Quick answer there, Jess.
I know Jessica knows what that means, and so like I can
Hey, just because I can't say it doesn't mean I don't know what it means. You know what I'm saying? Just saying.
hypertrophy. Yeah.
All right, Tara, what you got?
Next up, Alejandra Osuna. I'm supposed to take my progress pics today, but I'm bloated as fuck. Time of the month coming in a couple of days. Can I wait until I'm back to my non-bloated self to take and post my progress pictures?
It's fucking funny. Yes, you can do that. It won't change on the calendar, but you can go back in the day and then redo that. So like, let's just say you don't complete your daily progress tracking for today. Don't do your daily progress tracking for today. Do it when, you know, there's less bloat and so on and so forth. And then that way you can take your pictures and upload them then.
Okay, so then we've got a follow-up question from Sim on the anterior pelvic tilt question that Nikki had. Would love to know more about it. How is it diagnosed? Does it put one at a disadvantage in lifting? We kind of gave some ideas for resolving it. And is there a Clubhouse manual or program to address it?
So this is where I was gonna go ham, but I think Linda stopped me from going ham on that previous question. I'm not gonna go ham. We gotta be anterior pelvic tilt like isn't actually a real fucking thing. And so when I say this, like when you say diagnosed, again, this is like it's meaning like there's something that's like medically, like you just have some slight like imbalances in your body, which is to a degree normal, right? And then you also just probably need to strengthen your glutes and strengthen your core and just kind of like change up, you know, some of the movements in your life that we kind of talked about. And the reason I'm saying this is because I think a lot of people, they're almost like, well, I have anterior pelvic tilt and like, you know, this is how it is. It's like, well, even if you do have like a slight anterior pelvic tilt, your body isn't supposed to be fucking neutral like 24/7. Like that's absurd. Like I think a lot of the corrective exercise people on social media are like neutral spine. And listen, like when you're deadlifting 400 pounds, yeah, you probably want a neutral spine so you don't fuck your shit up. But like if you just have a little bit of like, you know, your butt sticks out or this, that, and the third over a daily basis, like it's not the end of the world. Yes, there are things you can do, work on your glutes, work on your core, work on everyday, day-to-day activities to be able to, you know, help, I don't want to say correct it, but like, you know, help kind of like, you know, push yourself in the right direction like we talked about. But honestly, I was somebody who overly freaked out about it. I don't want you to do the same thing I did because for a long time I was like, fucking anterior pelvic tilt Eric, there he is again. I'm like, everything I do is wrong. It's like, bro, calm the fuck down, man. Like everything's gonna be okay. So yeah, that's what I would say, Sim. I'm not mad at you, Sim, for the question at all by any means. I just think that's something I see on social media a lot, is a lot of the corrective, like physical therapists, corrective exercise people, like your anterior pelvic tilt. It's like, bro, it's okay. Like you're not gonna die. So
Honest to God, though, just like real quick, a lot of it has to do with how we sit at our desks, how we walk, and how we like, you know, go about our business. It's no different when we talk about having good form, like deadlifting or RDLing or something like that. That's why, right? But if you're constantly sitting like this, slumped in your chair, then like shit starts happening. So I think what Eric's trying to say is also that don't allow like something to be so scary that you stop moving, right? Find the way that works best for your body. Find like really kind of like lean into the form checks, lean into like, you know, making sure you're listening to the cues and the videos that we put into the workouts. Like really lean into that, because there's not one person on God's green earth that hasn't been able to improve what they were either born with or what they had going on. There's really not. I've been told so many things by doctors and I'm like, all right, we're still here. Eric too, Tara too, Jamie too. So it's like, you know, don't like take something like that and be like, that's it, we're done, right?
Yep. Agreed.
All right. Let's see here. Bradley's throwing in a general question. Last week was out with COVID, hit a new low of 193. Today I'm 198. I'm back in Wonderland. It's a fantastic feeling and so proud of the work I've put in to reach this. My question is the gap in the two numbers. Can that be water weight and muscle glycogen from my body not being depleted anymore? Physically and mentally, I feel the best I've ever felt.
That's fine. fucking awesome, first and foremost. Like, I mean, not much else to say about that one. That's fucking incredible. Yeah, man, I think, you know, it could be a couple things. Could be less it could be the things you said, which I know you've obviously learned, you know, a bit in your time in here, Brad. So it could be the things you said. It could also just be like less stress and less inflammation inside of your body. It could be also a mix of all four of those things. So it usually, after like being sick, that's usually what it is. Your body's less inflamed, less stressed, and you kind of drop some of that water weight. And, you know, maybe if you weren't eating as much, just less overall weight in your stomach, and maybe you were in a bigger calorie deficit during that time, right? So yeah, I think those couple things are probably what I would point to.
Last question on the Facebook side of things is from Jasmine Toledo. And of course, my Facebook decided to.
Guys,
But she said, what do these sets and reps mean? Because I just did like 25 reps on one set. It is
wow.
leg extensions. I'm not positive which program she's doing, but it's one set of 5 to 7 reps, one set of 8 to 10, one set of 12 to 15.
It's
So
the quad
Jasmine,
program.
yeah, so Jasmine, please don't do 25 reps in one set. I mean, honestly, if I was looking at that, I would go like aiming for 5 reps and then aiming for 8 reps and then aiming for 12 reps. Like just lowering the weight a little bit, like not even by a ton, and just kind of increasing each set, but make sure you're resting in between those sets. 100%.
Yeah. Jasmine, it's like Tara said, it's 3 different sets, Jasmine. So you're doing a set of 5 to 7 reps, close to failure, a set of 8 to 10 reps, close to failure, and then finishing with a set of 12 to 15 reps, close to failure. These are somewhat called like top sets and back off sets, because 5 to 7, you'll obviously be able to do heavier weight usually than you do 8 to 10 or 12 to 15. So usually you would drop down the weight as you increase the reps on that, Jasmine.
Perfect. That's the last questions on this side, Eric. If you want to do a quick sweep on, somebody's asking you about massages on your
Lymphatic
face.
massage. I was just reading that. I don't know what that is.
Excuse me.
Alejandra asked, did
Alejandra.
you do those lymphatic massages on your face? I sent you a link on IG with a video that's helped me out a lot.
Oh yeah. No, Alejandra, I have not fucking done that yet. I know what she's talking about though. When I made that Instagram,
Well, we want to know.
it's like I made that thing about I'm always fucking congested right now. Like
Oh,
always
yeah.
this time of year.
I was
Like,
gonna message you and say it's called allergies, but
fuck
Yeah.
I don't fucking believe in allergies. Allergies are bullshit. That is something I don't believe in.
Oh, okay. So you're
you've
just
never had your
congested.
eyes swollen shut and just crying for no reason?
That's bullshit. I don't believe. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm saying it doesn't happen to me. Like I don't believe.
Why do you think you have congestion but not allergies?
Dude, something's going on other than allergies, clearly.
Every
That's not a real
year
thing.
at this time, something's going on that's
Right?
not allergy.
That's
my
what
God.
got me. That's what got me on the video. Does anyone else notice that at this time of the year,
Every
I
year.
don't believe this.
Always congested. You
I don't-
also know, interestingly enough, that every 7 years, your system changes. So people who had not had
Yeah.
allergies before can get allergies then.
100%.
Yeah, I don't
Oh, but
believe
it's not
it.
you.
Yeah, no. Maybe it's something with like the air flow in my apartment or something.
Yep.
It could be something with the
We just
flowers
discussed
outside
the
with
same
stuff
cold
like
every
growing.
year in
No.
February.
It's something here. I'll figure it out. Don't worry. Maybe
Okay.
it's lymphatic massages. It's not allergies. That's what I can assure you of. So trust me. I got it.
Okay.
All right, good. All right, cool. I think that's all the questions. Yeah, and really quickly, if you guys haven't seen, I know we had some updates to the app this morning, but we do now have a chat function inside of the Clubhouse, and so I don't know if it's gonna pop up on my phone because I'm logged in somewhere else, but let me see if I can pull it up. Down in the bottom right-hand corner, we have a chat function now. So if there are, I know a lot of you guys use a Facebook group, you email us, like, of course, keep doing all that shit. We just want to have, as many areas to help you out as much as we humanly possibly can. So if you guys need that, it's in there. It took us a lot of time to develop, and it's still taking us a lot of time to develop.
Eric, can you real quick hit on what it is?
The chat
actually?
function is
Yeah.
support. It's really a support function, guys. So like it's not like a share your PRs. We fucking love that, but like that's more for the Facebook group. This chat support function is if you have a very specific question dedicated to the app or dedicated to your workout or dedicated to nutrition. It's kind of like if you were to go on somebody's website and, you know, there's a support little like pop-up that is there, that's kind of what the goal of this chat function inside of the Clubhouse is. So I guess it's more of a support than it is a chat. I keep saying chat, but I guess it's more of like a support question function than it is a chat function. But yeah, so we have that inside now. And so, you know, I hope that can help you guys out as well. Like I said, you know, we're still, we talk about this as a team. We're still going to be in the Facebook group. We're still going to be answering emails. Like, you guys can keep rocking and rolling there. But if you do have something, you know, that is another option for you as well. So hopefully all that makes sense. And yeah, the app should be fine now. Obviously, I know there was some, you know, problems with it earlier. I apologize for that. Tried to avoid it. Life happens, and so I apologize for that. But yeah, other than that, I think that's pretty much it. We have some new challenges coming up next week for the New Year's challenge, and so that'll be, are they already posted? They're not posted yet. Sunday they're posted.
They'll hit on Sunday.
Wonderful. So those will be there.
People need to get their mini challenge completion form for February done this weekend, so that'll drop as well.
And you'll see that in that announcement in the app and in the Facebook group. So be on the lookout for that too.
Yeah. March game plan. I'm gonna fucking try to drop that thing today, if not or tomorrow. I know I'm trying to get. I know some people are kind of pissed off because they're like, I don't have workouts. I can't do daily progress tracking. So I'm gonna try to help you guys out. There's no promises though. But I'm gonna try. And Kelly Burke, thank you for that. I appreciate that inside of the chat. The little picture. And yeah, like I said, retreat coming soon as well. So. Pins and needles, motherfuckers. We're working on that as we speak. So looking forward to it, guys. Anything else, or are we good, everybody?
Okay.
Good. Cool. Bye, guys. Have a great rest of your weekend,
Good
and
weekend.
we will chat soon. All right, guys. Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Bye.